the live button on YouTube now. All right, I think we're live here.
Not sure Jamie thinks we're live.
Well, I'm not sure how long it takes the delay for YouTube still spinning and doing its thing.
Everybody find a good pose.
The pose.
There we go. Oh boy, I just got a text about another very important meeting I'm supposed to be attending. Isn't that exciting?
Hey everybody!
It is. Yeah, hey everybody! It's the YellowTieGuy Fireside Chat, and that means it's Wednesday. It's like the middle of the week, like a massage for your mind.
I feel slightly disturbed now.
That's not even remotely close to true, and you know it. So tonight, everybody, we have Keith Center with us from Another Wasted Hour. We are very excited to have you with us, Keith. I don't know if you saw the post that I put out on Instagram today, but I believe that you and I met at Jam and Java outside of a Super Bob concert.
Really? Okay.
I think that's where our story begins.
Interesting.
I don't think that there is a tragic incident involving a breath mint. However, I do think that if there was a story behind that, it would be really interesting. So
I think we can make one up.
Maybe you can tell us more about that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it has something to do with the fact that wintergreen causes sparks and probably some type of explosion.
That's how Liam Neeson died in Taken 3.
Yep, that was one of the skills he had, and he probably shouldn't have used it.
That's what happened to our first van.
Yeah, that is a good story. How Eric tried to murder our van. That's a good story there.
Oh yeah, for those not familiar,
fast forward.
Eric and Keith were in a band together for what, 15 years, 14 years?
I was only in for 8.
Only 8. Yeah, the band was around for like 17 years, but it only got good in the last year, and then we broke it off because we were like, it's not going to get better than this, folks. We're out.
So how did Eric try and murder the band?
Oh well, I'm glad you asked. Since you brought it up. We were playing a show down in North Carolina in Greenville. Greensville probably has an S in it, I would assume.
I don't think so. It's just Greenville.
Is it Greenville?
I think so.
Somethingville in North Carolina.
Perhaps someone from the Carolinas will chime in on the chat and on YouTube here.
I think it is. It was in whatever particular town also has ESU. I think it is
ECU.
Eastern Carolina University. That's what it was. So the place was called Dr. Unk's Oasis. You get it? Because Dr. Unk, and then you put it together and you get drunk. And so that was where we were playing. It was actually a lovely place. They had really good sound and a great lighting as well. And we became good friends with the lighting and sound guy. And that's important later in the story. But had a blast there. It was the night before the Super Bowl, so Super Bowl Saturday, lesser known than Super Bowl Sunday.
By the way, one other important thing, I'd only been in the band 2 weeks at that point.
Really? Was it only 2 weeks?
Only 2 weeks. Like, I didn't play the second set because I didn't know it. I played the first and third set.
Oh, wow. All right.
It was that early, yeah.
I don't even remember that particular detail, so I'm going to say it's not true. And,
Oh, no.
And so we did our show. We packed everything up. We put it into our tour van, which I believe at the time involved it was just a cargo van that had a driver's seat, a passenger seat, a futon mattress just on the floor, and then like a metal grate thing that kept all of our equipment from smashing into us in case we ever stopped quickly. And rarely, I tended to do a lot of the driving. This time I said, I'm very tired. If somebody else could drive, that would be great. And so Eric was like, yeah, I'll drive. I feel up for it. And I was like, all right, good job, new guy. apparently. and we drove, but obviously we're leaving. It's at this point probably 1 o'clock in the morning. We're leaving the venue and we need some gas. We find a gas station that's open. We pump our gas, and things are going well so far. And Eric jumps back into the driver's seat, puts the keys into the ignition, but the key doesn't go all the way in. Now, keep in mind, this is a van that is from like 1989. And there's an interesting fact about this van. A couple of them. It used to be owned by my father back in the day, but that is not as important as a fact as one, the key was not double-sided. So it went in a particular direction and it did not go in the other direction. The second is that it was an old key. So because of the weight of other keys being on it when it was in the ignition and driving and the vibrations, it had worn a bit on one side. The non-tooth side, the smooth side, was now worn a bit. And some combination of these two facts allowed this key to slide in at such a direction and such an angle, and then that it was now stuck in the ignition. Yeah, we couldn't pull it back out. So we had a spare key, but it couldn't go in because there was already a key there. And that was a problem. Luckily, Jeremy, our bassist, had a solution, which was he had a Leatherman, which is, you know, one of those foldable plier types of multi-tools. And so he took hold of the key and kind of rocked it back and forth to kind of be able to get it to loosen up, and was able to pull it out of the ignition, except only half of it came out, which somehow I didn't know was going to be possible, made things worse. So now we have half a key in the ignition, which won't allow us to put the spare key in, because although we thought one whole key was bad, this was arguably the worst case scenario. So we start calling 24-hour locksmiths, and apparently they are not open 24 hours in a row, because that would be too convenient. But it is Super Bowl Sunday, like the mid-morning, you know, it's a 2 o'clock in the morning of Super Bowl Sunday. So they're like, oh, I'm going to sleep in so I can be ready for the game, and screw people who have old vans and they don't know how to put cars and keys into the ignition correctly. So we call literally the only other phone numbers that we have of anyone within like 4 hours of where we are. And that is the sound man and the lighting guy from the show that we just did. They were nice enough to be like, hey, keep in touch. So we call them, we're like, hey, this is super weird. I don't even know why I'm calling you, but literally, like, you're the only other people in like this area that we really know. Any ideas? They're like, hey, we're at the Waffle House. We'll be there shortly. And they come over, they all look at it and they go, yeah, you are screwed. You're absolutely screwed. And then I think it was the sound guy's girlfriend was like, hold my beer, pulled out her hoop earring, bent it, put it in, and pulled out the rest of the key. And we were on our way home.
Like seconds too. Like
yeah. It was amazing. Never in my life would I have thought, you know what we need right now? A hoop earring. But it was the exact tool that we needed. But yeah, we almost just lived in North Carolina from that point forward.
In a gas station.
Yeah, in a gas station. And on the way back, I believe on that same trip, a piece of the van fell off onto 95. It was making terrible noises, some type of clutch mechanism. We were told it was a smog pump, and then it was making terrible grindy noises, but our mechanic person was like, it'll be fine. Just ride it out. We'll figure it out when you get back.
Ride it
and
out.
Yeah. And so I took over driving because at this point I was awake because of the insanity that was happening. So I was driving along 95 on Virginia, like Southern Virginia, and it's going. and
So
it's
Keith-
quiet. It's suddenly everything's quiet, and we're like, oh, and I'm like, the steering works, and I pump the brakes on. The brakes work. We're good, right? But we pulled over at the next stop, like the next rest stop, and there's just a hole where the thing was. You could see the ground now, and the van worked better than it did before. I don't know what feature it did, but it
Keith,
wasn't.
Is this
useful.
van somehow worse than the tour van that I was familiar with, the big old white one that eventually rusted in half?
No. Well, this was older than that one.
Yeah, the one you're talking about was a great van. What are you talking
Yeah,
about,
that was a
King?
great van. That was the 15 passenger van, but with like
Yeah.
the last 2 rows pulled out. It was great.
That one never had any problems.
Yeah, this one was this. Yeah, it had the rust. That was the problem.
Well, yeah, it did kind of do one of these, right?
No, I mean it didn't pass inspection because the people inspecting it were like, no. no, not on a road. No. You could throw this off a cliff if you want, but do not drive it. But yeah, that was a great van. That I really liked that van because it held like what it ended up being. It was like it was a 15 passenger van, and I think we like could put like 9 people and all of our stuff in it or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It was 2 rows of 3 and then the front 2 seats, right?
So 8 people plus side, yeah.
Yeah, so 8 people and all of our equipment, no problem. But if you did hit a speed bump quickly, it would take some of the equipment and slam it into my ex-girlfriend's head. I did learn that.
All right.
So I don't want to sound like I wasn't paying attention. What is the end of the story?
Can you tell that again, please?
That's how I
No.
sum up my entire life.
I'm not. I just want to make sure that I understand that I know that the end of this story is that something fell out of the van, and then all of a sudden everything was okay.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was a piece of equipment that came with the van that had like a belt on it or something, and we were told it was a smog pump. And all we know is that when it fell out of the van worked better and was quieter.
No, how does this translate to Eric lighting it on fire exactly?
Yeah.
No, he was trying to make it so you couldn't start it because of the key.
Yeah.
And yeah, it almost lived the rest of its life in North Carolina because how do you move it after that? I don't even know.
So there would have been a spark, and then the whole thing would have gone up.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So what
And
we're
then-
trying to say is, do you want me to drive the next trip? Dan?
Right.
I
That's
think
where
it's
this was going.
fine. It's fine as long as Kyle starts the car.
Yeah. Or the key has both sides.
Right.
You're good
That
on
actually
that.
became a rule, I think. Yeah, but I could drive, but somebody else had to start it.
Well, now that we've spent half the show talking about Keith's old tour van,
Yes.
That's why you're all here. That's why we're all here.
we should probably mention that Keith is the original founder of the DMV Musicians Group on Facebook, which went from a handful of people to what, 7,000 something people last time?
It's like 9,500 people now.
Holy crap.
Yeah, most of which who don't like me.
You've
Which
lived
isn't
long
different
enough
than
to
real
become
life,
the
but it's-
enemy.
Yeah.
How did that story me?
Yeah, no, I
You must be
started.
really old.
What's that?
You must be really old. You've lived long enough to become the enemy.
Yeah, no,
The villain.
yeah,
It didn't take very
Villain,
long.
yeah. Well, I mean, villain, enemy.
I think I started there maybe, but I started that group because the Dreamscapes Project, who I played with Eric in, was kind of winding down. We kind of mentioned this before, is we were having problems being able to actually schedule shows because just lots of schedules, right? Everybody had families and jobs and all these different things. But we were really blessed. We'd been able to do a lot of different concerts and make a lot of different contacts. And so people would write us and say, hey, can you come do, the State Theater and open for somebody? And I'd say, let me check with the band. And inherently I'd be like, no, I can't, unfortunately, one of us is out or isn't available. And they'd say, do you know anyone? And so I started off by like calling people and texting people and writing emails, but it got really involved because, you write to like 10 people and then one person, says yes, and then you have to write to all the other 9 people and be like, somebody else already got it. And then that person goes, oh, I actually have to back out. And like, it became a whole thing. And so I thought, well, what if I take all the people I know who are musicians and in this area? And Facebook had just released a thing called groups. And I thought, I'm just going to put them in a group. Then I'll post to the group like, hey, there's a thing coming up, and Lisa's looking for somebody. Reach her here, and and let her know that I sent you. And that would save time and effort for me, which was great. And then I'd be able to hopefully kind of share some of this, this wealth of opportunities with a lot of the friends that I'd made throughout the years. And that went along great. And then I had one asshole friend who reached out to me and said, hey, I know that you made this group, which is just a bunch of your friends from the DMV area. Is it all right if I also invite my friends? And that man's name was Jamie.
Oh.
And so he invited his friends, and then they invited their friends. And then eventually they all had meetings where they said, this group is terrible, isn't it? And
I never said that. I like the group.
So
I invited people to it.
Yeah. But that's how it grew. I mean, we didn't advertise or anything because I don't care. So, yeah, we just had friends of friends, and then rules kind of ended up happening like very organically, like, when there was. The
problem started when the world's most gregarious extrovert got involved. I apologize.
Yes. But early on, we had, a few dozen people or maybe 100 people, and we were like, hey, do we also want like to be able to, post about our shows here? And everyone was like, that sounds terrible. And so we were like, okay, so no promotion. We're like, yeah, that sounds good. And we asked, should people who aren't musicians but are like in the industry be allowed in the group? And they said, yeah, I think that's fair. So we started allowing booking agents, and we started allowing luthiers and anybody else who was kind of tangentially, related to music, not even tangentially. I mean, they're pretty straightforwardly related to music. And just on and on and on. And then like the latest kinds of stuff has been a lot around, just language and equality and things like that, which have been real touchstones obviously over the last few years. And so we've evolved along with that as well.
Very good.
So this started out as like some sort of selfish opportunity to help others.
Yeah.
And then and then it got like super bigger than you.
Yeah, it was definitely a very selfish thing that I did, where I was like, I want to take these opportunities and give them to other people like an asshole. And it almost worked. I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those pesky kids.
Those darn kids.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because people end up joining, it's been around for like 11 years or something now. And people join, 2 months ago, and, they post something where they're like, hey, I got this show coming up. And we're like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. And they're like, this is bullshit. And you're like,
who else said you were all do that?
Yeah. And I'm like, we can have a discussion about it if you want. And they go, yeah, you know what? We should change the rule so that I can promote my show. And I go, hey, everybody, do we want to change the rules so we can promote shows? And everyone goes, no. And then we go, cool. Glad we did that again. Welcome to the group.
I mean, there are other groups for that in the area that have almost as big followings. So,
right.
Yeah, part of me, the jerk part of me wants to really be like, hey, I feel like you're not going to go really far in this industry because you are shit at reading a room. That's kind of part of it.
That kind of holistic, approach is part of what I do in my day job, if you can call it that, of like private independent consulting. It's funny that you say that though. It's because it's like people should read, and it's not just like the room. It's like there's postings, about this group, and we talk about these kinds of things. It's a very opportunity driven group.
Yeah.
It's about learning and exploring. It's about solving a problem for yourself or somebody else. And there are plenty of Facebook pages where you can just like put another, like invite everybody to your show, or put another poster event out there of something you're trying to sell, but that's not what the group was for. So it's really unique. It's like a unique place on the internet. It's like to me, it's like the iota of Facebook groups. Like
Now, what is the iota of Facebook group? Because a lot of people don't know
Yeah,
iota
no.
on the internet. They're just thinking that it's a small bit of the internet, is what you just said.
Tiny, very tiny Facebook group with 9,500 people.
No, I mean,
in
it's just,
Utah, there's like
Which is
nobody.
also true.
there's like that combination, where like obviously a venue is supposed to make money, but you never got the vibe when you walked into IOTA where it was like, I don't care about you. You're just here to play the damn show and get on with your life, right? Like it was always like, you're here at IOTA, like it's cool, like, and you can feel that vibe in the room. And you always felt that vibe at IOTA. And some nights you could go to some venues and you can say, well, I don't feel that vibe here tonight, but then the next time you go, you're like, okay, I'm glad I gave them a second chance because I'm definitely getting that vibe tonight.
Speaking of IOTA, that's actually where I met Keith. He was
Is it?
outside. Yeah, we were there seeing a band called Kill the Alarm, a friend of ours from New York.
Okay, yeah.
Now
I knew
in
that.
Nashville.
Yeah.
And Keith was outside on the sidewalk handing out flyers for, I think it was their first 9:30 Club show. And I was like, oh. And of course, I'm all like, how did you get booked at 9:30? And we had a great little chat, for about 10 minutes. So he, distracted him from handing out a lot of flyers, I'm sure. Though he did manage to pass me out while we were talking. And we talked and exchanged, I don't know if we exchanged information, but I was like, yeah, we'll have to come check you out sometime. We'll come see you. And we didn't make that show. But then maybe about a week later, went to go see a movie. And we walk in the theater and then apparently Keith has the same road choices that I do when it comes to movie theaters. Because I walk along and I sit down and I go, hey, you're that guy. And he's like, hey, you're that guy. And then we started talking.
Guys!
We started talking music some more, and then we actually exchanged information. The next thing I know, we've got this incestuous, tit for tat show trading that went on for years, all up and down the East Coast.
Yep.
It was a good time. So
Yeah, if you ever need tips on how to like create a lasting relationship, Jamie's your guy. Like the number of bands that I had that reached out and were like, hey, we should do something sometime, or like, hey, I like your band, or like, or hey, how did you get to this particular venue or whatever. The number of them versus the number that actually showed up and like created a relationship with us is monumentally different. And Jamie was one of the very few that like, he actually showed up to a couple shows and was like, hey, like I want to make this a connection. And it didn't take, like, I didn't need him to go to like, a dozen shows or anything like that. After like a show or two, I was like, all right, this guy's pretty cool. Like, let me see how we can get them involved. And started trading shows. It's a big deal when you're in an industry where you're used to seeing a lot of people come and go, a lot of fans, a lot of bands, just, kind of shake your hand and then you never see them again or never hear from them again. Or you get just a passing email that's like, hey, so how about that show kind of thing. To have somebody actually show up to your show like a second time and be like, I'm serious about this. Like, I really want to try and make this work.
well, it also helped. I really liked your music.
Yeah. But like it made a huge impression on me. It obviously helps to have a band that plays good music also. Like, if Jamie had been in a terrible band, it would have been a little harder to make that work. But lucky he was in a good band and was a talented individual. But that extra like effort, for the folks who are out there that might be listening and need a hint as to how to like make a difference. And I think, is it you, Jamie? Did you play with Cowboy Mouth?
Yes, 9:30 Club. Yeah, it was a
Perfect example.
hell of a
It's
show.
another one where Cowboy Mouth like knew Jamie by name because
I've been pestering them for years about opening for them. But you know
What's
what?
that?
I said I'd been pestering them for years about opening for them.
Yeah.
But you know what? It worked. Their manager, they needed their local support fell out of the tour, and about a week before they were about to play here, and their manager was like, well, hell, I've checked out these guys. They're pretty good. And Cowboy Mouth always sells out 9:30 Club. So it's not like they needed someone to bring in bodies.
Yeah.
And actually, I take it back. It was a 24-hour notice we think we had on that show because I was driving down Route 7 outside of Reston, and my phone rang, and it was like Lisa White, and I'm like, hey Lisa, what's up? She's like, hey, can you guys play Friday night? This was maybe like Wednesday night. She's calling me, and I'm like, yes. Let me confirm the band, but yes, tentatively yes. So I immediately,
I will be there.
I actually pulled over. Like I pulled over because I was just like, pulled over, called the rest of the band. I was like, hey guys, 9:30 Club Friday night. You in? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And whether they said yes or not, I'm not sure. I just said, okay, cool, okay, bye.
You just went through your mental Rolodex and you were like, no one in the band's getting married on Friday, so that's yeses.
Yeah, exactly. So I called her right back. I was like, yep, we're in totally. And I gotta go throw a big shout out to their manager at that point, a guy named John Valley, who he's the one who's like said, hey, why don't you ask these guys? And Lisa had known, she also, because of me asking to play at the 9:30 Club, she knew who I was and was familiar with our stuff and was like, yeah, all right, they're a good band. I mean, they don't have a big draw, which is why she never booked us. It's not in DC. We could sell out all sorts of venues in Northern Virginia, but like she said, she always complained about she called them the burb bands that could like destroy Arlington. But then nobody would follow them across the river into DC.
Those are bridges. They're scary.
Yeah, right. It's like all that water. So that was a good time, and we're doing it. Cowboy Mouth, like we had a good time with them backstage, and even now when we go to shows, Fred's like, hey. So
cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Very cool.
It's funny. I do believe that a bit of the world is shocked that you may have to reach out to people that you're excited to engage with or inspired by, and that you might have to reach out to them more than once to make a lasting impression.
It really is about persistence. I mean, that's why I was able to get Crooked Crow booked into so many places all up and down the East Coast and random cities and places we'd never even played before. Like, hey,
but you're not a jerk about it. You're not.
Well, that's the other thing. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Be nice. Be friendly. Be persistent. And
right.
Without being an asshole.
Yeah, it took me a while to learn that lesson, honestly, because I would reach out to different venues and stuff, and then I wouldn't hear back. And so I would just be like, well, I assume they've read it, and they were like, nope, they're terrible and don't want to talk to us. And I was like, well, I don't want to annoy them and anything. And I remember there was actually a turning point, and I don't remember what year it was or anything, but I remember I would reach out to a bunch of festivals. And I'd be like, we're really interested in playing your festival. And then I'd hear back from somewhere between 0 and 1 festivals.
Festivals are the worst. They just do not like to respond.
And so I was like, one year I went, you know what? Screw this. I'm sick and tired of this. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write these festivals every 2 weeks until they tell me no. And they can tell me no. And I'll be like, cool. All right. Thank you. I appreciate the call back, the response. And so I wrote, and it was just first time was hey, we'd like to be a part of your festival. And then 2 weeks later, hey, not sure if you got my first email, but still really interested in it. 2 weeks later, you know how crazy the internet is. Sometimes things just get swallowed. And so I just wanted to make sure, because it sounds like it didn't get there, but just, drop me a line either way. 2 weeks after that, it would be I'm not sure how computers work, but it seems like this thing's on. I just wanted to see maybe if it's not getting to you, I could probably talk to Verizon and see if they could connect me back up to the internet, because perhaps this is all just going into Russia. And eventually, between 2 and 3 messages in, I got a return rate of 70%, and half of those booked us. And I was like, oh, you're all just really busy. That's what it is. Yep. And so from then on, I was just I'm going to keep writing you, and I'm just going to say ridiculous, polite things. I'm oh, it's probably me. But yeah, that's exactly, that's how it worked. Either that or I lie to them.
Well, the other thing we did was we would just go to festivals that we didn't get invited to and just play.
Yes.
The whole Gorilla Festival, we would just show up, set up our stuff, and start playing in the middle. Not when another band wasn't on. We didn't want to compete with our friends' bands and stuff. But
yeah,
we would just play. And the first one we did, we're all badasses and we're gonna get arrested. And this is all we're all gonna get in trouble. We start playing hey, you're the Dreamscapes Project, right? you guys want to play on the stage? Like, no, no, don't want to play on the
We're
stage.
gorillas.
We're edgy.
You can't keep us down. We're not. We're giving you time on the stage. But okay, all right.
I like this plan. This sounds amazing.
Oh, it was a blast. It was a blast.
Yeah.
We did get kicked out of one, right? I think.
I don't remember now. Which one did we get put on stage? I don't remember that.
No,
one.
well, we did. We actually did ended up saying no. We actually did not go. They invited us on stage at Vienna. It was me, you, and Ben. And I don't remember what. I might have had a flight that night or something. I do fly out of the state.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, like we couldn't do it. I think is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Viva Vienna wouldn't book us, and so we started just showing up to it and playing anyway.
And they recognized, asked us on stage.
Yeah.
We said no, and then the next year we got booked. Like,
Yep. we just had fun, just causing trouble. Is really what our plan was.
I mean, that's what fun is all about.
Yeah, I remember how we got our first gig in New York City, which was, I wrote to it was the Lion's Den. It's now right. It wasn't called the Lion's Den though, right?
I think it was back then.
No, it was the Lion's Den. Now it's Sullivan Hall, I think, or if it's still around.
Yeah.
But I wrote to them, and it was a pretty decent venue, like down in the Village, and I was like, "Hi, I would like to play in New York," right? And I think I wrote them. I think I wrote them from our Make Believe record label, which was Figmental Records, which I thought was hilarious because I thought it was pretty obvious that I just made it up. And so I wrote them from like, Keith at figmentalrecords.com. And I was like, and so I was like, hey, we have a band coming through there in October on this date. And we'd love to have them come play there. It was like a Saturday, right? And they were like, I'm sorry, we don't have bands like start here on a Saturday. You have to prove yourself on like a Tuesday or something. And I was like, and we were weekend warriors, so we just couldn't do it. And so I said, I totally understand. They said, oh, we have to prove that you have like a following first, and then we'll give you a Saturday. And I said, I completely understand that being kind of unproven and stuff. But out of curiosity, like just if we were to do like an opening slot on a Saturday, what kind of numbers are you looking for? And they said, oh, you'd have to bring 50 people. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry. I thought you were a bigger venue than that. And that guy said, wait, what? And I said, no, don't worry about it. I know there's some other venues that are a little more sizable. And they said, no, how about you come in and just try it on that date, and we'll see how it goes. That was my best bluff ever. I never lied. I never said anything to the fact. And I would like to point out, for the record, we had 50 people. Mm-hmm. Some of them we brought with us, and they followed us and all kinds of things. But we walked out of there with 50 people through the door. But
I admire that. Now, see, I'll go the other way and say that I tried to get us a show at Jam and Java one time. And they were like 80 people on a Tuesday. And I was like, I know we can't get 80 people out on a Tuesday at 9:00 at night by ourselves. Yeah. But then they were like, somebody else was like, oh, that's their number for like all the bands. So I had already like respectfully declined, being like, we cannot pull 80 people on a Tuesday at this time.
Right.
But it was supposed to be like the whole bill for the whole night to bring out 80 people on that date, which is, not hard to reach with 2 or 3 bands on a bill,
right.
With 4 or 5 band members each, So missed opportunities, man. I love your bluff. I'm not as smart of a thinker as you. I can't put myself in that brain. You and Danny Goldberg would get along well. I think I like your style.
I mean, what did I have to lose, right? The guy had already said no. So instead of being like, oh yeah, I bet we could, I just was like, totally understand. I just played the opposite of what he was expecting. And when I did that, he was like, I don't know what to do with this. It like broke the whole game, right? I just broke the game. Great. And he was like, he knew how to do it. If the answer was, oh, we could totally have 50 people, like that's not even a problem. He'd be like, yeah, that's what they all say. But instead, I just like, I rolled like double sixes, and he was like, it's like I rolled the dice, and I was like, I got a 13, and he was like, that's not possible. Those are 6-sided dice.
Yeah,
Sure, come on in.
that's very cool, man.
So, tell us about your podcast, Keith.
Sure. So, as you can see, I have a very fancy microphone because when I was at the band, I had a studio for demoing, just as I was trying to kind of get ideas down. Not good recordings, but just enough to get an idea of like where I wanted to go with a song with the Dreamscapes Project. And then I had all this equipment, and we stopped doing music. And I'll be honest, like a lot of people like want to be like, well, how did you guys get as far as you did and things like that. And the truth of the matter is, the secret is, I am absolutely terrible at doing things on my own. So as long as there's other people involved, like I'll go to 11. And Eric knows this. I'll be like, I made a website and here's the poster and I wrote a song, and like I'll just do all the things I possibly can. But as soon as it's just me, I'm like, I could also just eat a donut. And that sounds so much better. And so I tried to kind of do some music stuff. I had some ideas, but I never really got anyone coordinated with it. And it wasn't. And I was a little smited by, because you put so much effort into music. When it feels like it didn't go right, it's a little bit like getting, like a breakup. And you're like, well, I don't want anything to do with you either. And so I kind of got away from music, but I had all this equipment and started to do some podcasting. And the latest iteration of that is called Another Wasted Hour. And its goal is to really try and put a spotlight on like musicians and artists and culture creators in the DC area. And we do comedy, we do some like crazy news we find around the internet, and some trivia, and then we just kind of silly fun things. But the idea is to try and actually get to know somebody from the area. So you're used to hearing their music or seeing their art, or maybe reading about what they do, but you don't get to kind of hang out with them. And that was kind of our hope is in today's media market, there's a lot of emphasis put on liking a person and being able to relate with them. And so we wanted to try and, much like you're doing here on these fireside chats, just, have some time where you're just kind of hanging out. And so we like to think of it as kind of like band practice, where we invite people in, we make jokes and we goof off. Yeah, we talk about music, we play some music. You also get that side of them, but you also just get the human side of them, and how much fun they are to kind of be around and hang out with. So there's about 140 episodes. We did it for about 3 years and then took a hiatus because pandemic, since music was really our focus, and live music even more so. When that all slowed down because of the pandemic, we really took a step back and decided that we wanted to kind of step back along with the rest of the industry and figure out what we wanted to do. But that is going to be coming to an end kind of late summer, early fall. We're getting our old host back. Victor is coming. He was in our first season, and he's going to be coming back. We may be doing it once a month rather than once a week, or some other things. We're still figuring out the details, but pretty excited that we'll be able to highlight a bunch of the real talented musicians and artists that we have in the DC area.
I'm speechless, and that's not easy to do, Keith.
Why?
I don't know. It's like
you're not sure if I took a breath during that? Is that
No, I mean, there's just like a lot to absorb for that, just in like kind of 140 episodes, again, it comes from a spot where you can't help it. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, it's different than just like, oh, this sounds like fun. I mean, after 140 episodes, you're like, we're going to restart this thing. I mean, like, just admit it. You can't help it. Like, it's like ridiculously fun, or like, you get to engage with people and share in their creative space. Like, it's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's an energy that people have who are performers and musicians and creators. And that's really great to be around, right? There's a life to it that, I do computer programming by day, and I have friends who do all kinds of things, all different walks of life. but when I was a theater major in college, there was something about getting a room full of theater majors together, right? There was something that magically
I believe
happened.
that's called an orgy.
That is called, yeah. And I just want to do
From all the
that.
theater people I know, I'm
That
pretty
is
sure
the
that's
goal.
that's what goes on there.
Yeah, no, I want an orgy. I bought a drone, right, so that I can film it. Because I feel like there's not enough drone pornography, with it's the cinematography isn't just up to par. I mean, just
Right.
imagine just how beautiful it would be to just see like the camera sweeping over a river and then off a cliff, and you see the waterfall, just drop off below it, and it goes over the rustic countryside, and it zooms down into the mist of the pool, and then just it like breaks through the mist into like a dramatic close up of my butthole. Right? Like you feel like you're there, right?
And Kyle
Yeah.
can score the cinematographic, composition to it.
Yeah, and we're doing it
So-
in VR. So that's, yeah.
It'll sound like Braveheart, or like Patriot, very like orchestral, and the horns come in, and the drone goes over, and so
And
yeah,
the
so
Stink Star.
But they can't take our buttholes. Yeah, no, I see it. There's a vision there.
God.
now we've got a film, and we've got audio, baby. That's
The entire music done by YellowTieGuy. This is brilliant, honestly.
it's gonna be our visual album. I hear those are all the rage.
Yeah, I can't
Play
wait.
the whole song.
Yeah,
One more time.
one more time.
I'm on stage as a dancer. Well, it's not really a dancer as much as it's just my butthole.
We'll just bring you out to fly the drone over the crowd, and this is the drone that he shot. That that
Yeah, I'm just up there like this.
entrance. That's
what
what
it'll
we
look
do
like.
here
Oh, yeah.
on the YTG Fireside Chat.
Yeah.
You're right.
This took
is
a turn
exactly-
you weren't expecting, didn't it?
No, I can't say we weren't
No.
expecting it. We've all known you for a very long time, Keith.
Best episode ever.
Kyle, do you remember when we were playing down in Richmond with you guys with Copper Sales, and you called Keith up to do between song banter for your band? But you didn't call him
Fools.
best musician or play guitar or sing. You called him up to talk between songs.
Mhm.
Right.
Sounds right.
That sounds about right.
Yep.
And then he just proceeded to insult us.
Yep.
What was there was a great one. It was the only like the first ever all gay Christian rock band. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
How brave you all were.
I also like that you introduced them as one of the top 5 Coldplay cover bands of all time. Number 1 is
God damn
Coldplay.
that funny.
Number 1 is Coldplay, and then like 2 or 3 other really good bands, and then there's Copper Sales.
So you must be really thrilled about our current band mottos, which include almost as good as your favorite band,
Nice.
Or,
Yeah, that's good.
What's
DC's premier super discount supergroup.
Yeah.
Good.
We are DC's discount supergroup.
Yep.
Those are both good. I like those.
There's also on the tagline for this thing for the Fireside Chats is some weeks are better than others.
Well, I feel like you're on an upswing, guys. I really do. I think this is really working out.
Our guest next week is going to have a lot of work to try to maintain this level of
Kyle-
Keith. So
Kyle, do you remember the last show that we did together?
I do actually. I think Eric and I were talking about this not long ago
Yeah.
at Capital AL.
It was one of the best like moments of timing that I've ever seen in my life, and I didn't find out about it until afterwards. But well, first of all, it was awesome. So Copper Sales, a band out of Richmond, who just incredibly talented, and were very, very kind to bring us down into Richmond several times and like make us their little like brother band. and we got to play the National with you guys, which was amazing.
Jealous.
What's that?
Jealous. I've always wanted to play
Yeah, it was
Nationals.
so cool.
Such a great venue.
And then the great, what was the big festival thing that you guys
Innsbruck
did?
Pavilion.
What was
Oh,
it?
Innsbruck. Was it Innsbruck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. And then we find out we were absolutely floored because I got a message that was that you guys were doing your last show, and I was heartbroken by it because we enjoyed playing with you guys so much. We had a handful of bands that like we played with a lot of really great bands, a lot of bands that we really enjoyed, really great, but we had about a handful of them where we had like there was something a little bit more to our relationship. It was like Cassandra Syndrome was like that, Crooked Crow was like that, Copper Sales was like that, where it was like we loved playing with each other, but we also like we teased each other. It was like family, and so it was just heartbreaking to hear that it was going to be breaking up. And I think it was probably Boomer that reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you guys open for our like last show." And I was like, "Yeah, done. Yeah, let's do it. Like, that's amazing. Thank you so much for having us." And in that moment, I swear to God, in that moment, I thought, much like the CD release that you did at the National, there would be like 8 bands, right? And we would be like the second band, right? And that would have been awesome. We would have walked around just being like, that was the best show. We had so much fun. And then we found out there was only one other band. It was just us. Mm-hmm. And we're like, us? Like, of all, like, you could have your pick of dozens of bands, and the last show you wanted to do with us. And we were so touched by that. And so I remember telling the guys this, and I said, "All right, hear me out, guys. What if we do a cover of one of their songs?" And so we decided that what we'll do is we're not going to mention it at all. We're going to learn the song and do it at their show. We'll just bust it out. And so we made some changes, and one of them was I think, what was it, in 3/4 originally or something?
8/7.
8/7. 7/8, whatever the thing was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, yeah, it's cool. It's a great song. I dig it. But I had this idea of doing it in 4/4, right? This other way. And so we go up there, and I forget the intro to it or whatever, but we end up busting into this song. And all of Copper Sales is like, what the hell is happening right now? And what was the name of the song, Kyle?
Silo.
Yeah, that's right, Silo. And so we're going through it. It's got this great chorus. It's like, here comes the waterfall, and all of that. And apparently, during that song, your drummer comes behind the stage
Yep.
and pokes his head up the stairs of the entry to the stage and looks over at Gordon and Eric and goes, "Can't do it in 7/8, can you?" And in 2 measures from there, we switched to 7/8.
So I actually got to talk smack back to him. So I go, what? He goes, it's in 7. It's supposed to be a 7. It's supposed to be a 7? He goes, yeah, you're playing in 4. Oh, 7. Okay. Boom. And we're
right there.
Perfect.
His jaw drops because he's thinking like, oh, I got them. I do it in 7 and you're doing it in 4/4. And Eric makes it look like in real time fixes it. And so we just immediately go dun 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 dun. And they're like, what? And I didn't even hear about this until after the show, but it made me so happy that the timing was just perfect to be able to like troll one last time.
Yeah, that was great.
Good times.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, all from top to bottom. There was a couple things that came to mind. Somebody sent me a video clip recently of somebody who the audience is clapping, and so they're clapping in. They're clapping.
Oh, is this the Harry Chapin Carpenter or whatever? clip.
Yeah, they're supposed to be clapping in like 1 and 3, but they're clapping in 2 and 4. So he adds like a 5 to it, to be able to get them to clap when they're supposed to.
Yeah, they get off. They're going a little fast, I think, is what happens. And so he adds a beat to get them back onto it.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yeah, like just live, just like adds it, just like here it is. Like,
Yeah. My
So
favorite part, go watch that clip again. My favorite part is look behind him, because his bassist, like after he does it, it like, you know, it goes to a clip to another clip and it like flashes back to him just after he did it. And the bassist is behind him going,
right.
the only dude in the room that knows what happened. It's like him and his band are like, that was awesome. And the whole rest of the entire audience is like, are we good? Are we doing it right? Yeah, it's nuts. We're not that good. We were never that good.
We opened up for Fuel with a couple of other bands on this kind of local lineup. Opens up for Fuel situation at what's the place in Sterling, Virginia? It was Empire or
Jack's.
Before that, it was Jack's. Yeah. Jack's. No, you're right. Yeah, Springfield. So Jack's Empire. I think it was still Jack's at the time.
The Empire only lasted about a year, unfortunately.
Wow, Fuel went to Jack's. I'm used to like Jack's being where like really old bands go to die, but
we
Jack's
played there with
was gone.
Sponge.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that was a great
All right.
freaking show. Sponge is a hell of a band. I'm sorry. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
No, that's good too.
It's a
I mean,
teaser.
I was just gonna say we played Shimmer during the sound check. I don't know if that made us any fans or not, but like,
The red blind.
Sometimes you got to take your shot, man.
that's
Sometimes
about
you
as far
just-
as pushing the line as I get. You're talking about showing up at a festival, like that's a lot of equipment to carry to not be paid to show up to play. You know?
Oh no,
like-
we did it all acoustic.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's
we just
still a lot of equipment.
like we rolled
Well, not
in.
for Keith, but for Eric, yes.
No, like,
No, it was one drum.
Oh,
one
Okay.
djembe. Yeah.
Yep, one thing.
Oh,
All
he
of us
does
have
play
one thing.
djembe.
There
Oh,
we
yeah,
go.
I like congas better, but yeah.
Or did
One
you have
thing.
conga? You had congas and Gordon had the djembe, right? Maybe that's what it was.
Not for the carry-in stuff. It was either bongos and djembe or something like that. It was really small stuff.
I thought Gordon had the djembe and you had the bongos.
Yeah. If all four of us went, it was like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have bongos.
And then we had. I think Jeremy either brought his double bass or he had his bass with a little amp. I can't remember which. And then obviously Ben had his cello, and then I just had my guitar strapped to my back. And we just played and sang. We just did it.
Yep.
And the idea was, if they were like, "I'm sorry, you can't be here," we could like pick everything up and like move a little bit and do it again, right? Until they were like, "You have to leave." And I think it was Herndon Festival was like, you have to actually go.
Yeah.
Can't be here. And we were like, "Oh, why?" And they were like, "Because this is a festival." And we're like, "Oh, there's a festival going on right now?" My bad. We're usually here on Tuesdays. I didn't really see the difference. But now, you know what? Yeah, there are vendors. Now that I see it, yeah. No, it's totally different.
You're just filling up some young bands' minds right now of like
yeah.
things that they can do. You know, they're gonna be
They
like
should get out and do it.
stretching
Do it.
the system.
Absolutely.
There'll be like
Get out there.
people showing up
waves.
at Merriweather Post Pavilion during a Jackson Brown concert, just thinking they can get away with this shit. Like,
Why not? I mean, what are they going to do, right? They're going to kick you out, and then you're back where you started. And maybe a few people heard your music.
it's so Lady Gaga of you. What did you like? Like Keith wore the first meat suit. That's a meme, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just not in public.
Right.
Oh no. No.
This explains so much about Eric's dark hole he's always hiding in.
Yeah.
Keith, the first couple episodes of this, Eric was like in a darkened room with just his laptop or phone lighting up his face. So he looked for all the world for like a hostage trapped in a container somewhere, being trafficked across the world. We're like, did they at least give you a bucket to pee in?
Yeah. No, that's how we toured with him. He wasn't
That's
allowed
right.
near the ignition ever.
You can't. You
You
got to
ride
put
in
him
the
in the
trailer,
cage
Eric.
while you're at work. Put him in the cage while you're at work, so he doesn't make a mess on the rug. When you get home. It's
Well, we have actually with Keith, we've actually done another wasted hour. We've gone way over time here. So
I didn't know there
Yeah,
was a time limit. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm still filling for you.
we do try to keep it to half an hour.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
it's another wasted half hour.
we kind of knew that was out at the window
yeah. I
this
mean,
time.
we usually end up going to like
Bob
9:45
time.
anyway.
As far
No,
as
I
I'm
mean,
concerned, we're right on time.
If we stick around 5 more minutes, this
Yeah.
would be like an interim, another wasted hour episode. That
I think it counts.
I think
don't
we can use it to help promote. Like another wasted hour coming back early September ish.
Yeah. I don't know what is required to make another wasted hour episode. I assume music and an hour. So I think we're there.
There's the games, which I think I'd left somebody. Left somebody with the topic of cardboard. I thought that would be a challenging topic for people to
Cardboard.
Yeah.
discuss.
For those that don't know, we do trivia. We do like 5 trivia questions for each of our guests.
I'm going to let you in a little secret here, Keith, and Jen's going to murder me for it. But all those times she won trivia is because I was yelling the answers to her. She's like, "Well, you should get on play." I'm like, "I don't want to." But then she'd read the
No.
question. I'd be like, "Oh, it's this," and she'd be like, "Blah, blah, blah."
But yeah, so we when we have guests on, we have them answer 5 trivia questions, but then they pick a category for the next guest. Whatever they want the next guest to try and answer. I have found that there's a surprising number of very sadistic people in our music scene.
I know somebody wanted me to answer questions about music theory. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, you expect me to do this?
They thought they were doing you a favor, probably. Like
They
they were
probably
like,
did.
yeah. And then you were like, I'm gonna pay that favor forward. Cardboard.
They know. I mean, how do you not know so much about music theory till you get on? Like where somebody's actually asking you a direct question. It's like being on Jeopardy, and then but when you're at home, you're like, boom, I know this one, and then you're standing there and your name's up on one of those squares, and you've got the button in your hand, and they're like. Like it just frozen. So you have 1 of 2 options. You go back or you try to learn a little music theory. I feel the same way when I visit Nashville and I hear somebody playing guitar and I'm just like, well, you have 1 of 2 options. You go home and you practice or you start a fire and you burn all of your guitars. Those are your only options.
Right. You give up because you're never gonna do that.
You've got 1 of 2 options. You just learn how to chicken pick or just quit. Just quit.
I think it's
You said
important
start
for
a fire. It meant like in the venue where the person's playing. Sorry, I took that in a very dark direction.
Oh, I hear 3
Yeah, you
options.
did. 3 options.
I think it's important for people. I've gotten this all the time, like especially back when we were playing, where after a show or something, people would come up and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed the show," and they'd say something like, "Oh, I wish I could play guitar like that," or whatever. And there were always different excuses. It was funny because they'd be like, "Oh, but I don't have very big hands, and my hands are like creepy small," and so I'd usually put my hands up next to theirs, and my hand would be like shorter, be smaller, and I'd be like, "Stop making excuses." But the thing that it was really important for me to get across to them is they'd be like, "Ah, I wish I could play guitar, that good." And I said, "No problem. First step, be really shitty at guitar. Like that's the way that you get good at anything is to be terrible at it, and then just."
That's horrible advice. I hope you give better advice when you get better at this.
Exactly. And I think it's like you basically get bad at being bad at things, right? Like is what happens. You don't even the day doesn't go. You don't have a day where you're like, now I'm a good, guitarist. You just you suddenly realize, oh, I can do that thing I couldn't do a year ago. Like I'm not as crappy as I used to be, but there's always somebody better.
That's also horrible motivational speaking. You're always supposed to be at the top of your game all the time.
Yeah.
There's
Can
never
we add the tagline, "Can never be that good" to our
Can
to our
never be that
cast?
good.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like I started out many years ago reading every couple of months. I think it's Guitar Player or some similar publication will come out with Steve Vai's 40-hour work week. And you know that Steve Vai, maybe he does it, but I also think like sometimes it's like the ideal. It's like if I could work 40 hours on a guitar the same way that I work a real job, I'd do it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just see like how close to that can you get, like, and the funny thing is, if it ends up becoming 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week or 2 hours a week, there is the improvement. Like the growth, the change, like it happens. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you're just, one day you're able to play that thing. A lot of, like I'd say, so Anthem for me is a riff that I started hearing in my head that at the time I would say my guitar playing was incapable of reproducing. So like having no other guitar players in the band to play this part and no other way to communicate with them, I want you to play this. Like I learned how to play these notes as fast as I wanted them to come out, like that intro in that Spanish guitar style. So eventually it's just like, no, I don't play guitar well, but I do play this well.
It's true though, right? And what you do is a lot of people will say, well, I can't play guitar that well, so I'm not going to. And that guarantees that you're not going to play guitar very well, right? What playing guitar does is it guarantees you're not going to play guitar well now, but you're very likely to play guitar better later, right? It's just inherently, like, even if you don't dedicate yourself to the craft and you just pick up a guitar and you like monkey with it for an hour a day with no knowledge, no nothing, I guarantee that a year later you'll be an all right guitar player, right? Like your style may be totally different than everybody else's style. You may not know chords, you may not do whatever, but you'll be playing music that you like, and it'll be fine. And then the year after that, you'll get even better at it. Add to that going onto YouTube and finding some chords and practicing those and that stuff. It feels like it's insurmountable, but nothing is. Will you be Steve Vai? Probably not, right? But that's okay. I think it's more important to understand that it's a tool of creativity and it's a tool of self-expression, and that expression doesn't need to be perfect, and that expression doesn't need to be, world renowned. It needs to be honest and pure and come from a place inside of you that needs to kind of get out. And the rest you can kind of flub a little bit, and you'll get better at over the years. The first songs I wrote were terrible. And by the 17th year, when we were like, about to break up, the songs I wrote that year were also terrible. But there was, but I was older.
They were differently terrible.
Yeah, they were terrible in a way that was really impressive.
Really impressive.
Yeah, it was impressively terrible. Rather, before you were like, oh, of course those are terrible, he's no good at this.
He's new at
17
this.
years later you were like, how is this still possible? That is like a superpower.
Oh my god.
And this is why nobody control me, is because I do it first.
This is why the older you get, the more fun has to be attached to everything. Like, sure, we can play that show, but will I have fun? Because I've played a lot of shows, and if I'm not going to have any fun, I don't want to do it.
Hey, it's a good measure, right? I mean, if you're going to make a run at it and you're going to try and, if doing shows is going to be your career and make all your money and everything like that, then you're going to have to play some shows that aren't fun but pay the bills. But if this is a creative outlet for you and it's something that is a passion, then make it pay for itself that way, right? Make sure that it feeds the piece of you that needs to be fed on a holistic level, rather than just getting the bills paid way.
Yeah, you're onto something, and we'll wrap up here because we've successfully made it another hour to like celebrate another
Let's do
Wasted Hours
two,
return.
2 hours.
2
Late-
hours long.
Late summer.
Not fun. Not fun. Okay, that's
No,
not
we
fun.
could
No.
we could go 2 hours, but
No.
I'm gonna have to take a pee break.
Our
So
viewership has been steadily dropping the longer we go. Watching the graph here on the YouTube streamer.
nobody's watching the YouTube chat, so nobody's responding.
Oh well, we should have done that.
No, I mean, like after a while, like enough is enough. You know what we have to do is we just have to have you as a guest later on, especially once Another Wasted Hour is like back on the air, so that way we can help draw some extra attention. And I feel like
Synergy.
I don't even think like that it's doubly important. I think it's like a community obligation at this point because I think I've been a guest on Another Wasted Hour 4 or 5 times. Usually when I ask, like I have a thing I could share with you. Is this cool right now? Or like, do you have somebody else scheduled? And then you're like, no, come on. Like let's talk about it.
We're just excited somebody wants to come back on our show. That's all.
I think
We're
I've
like,
had 2
ha ha, sucker.
sucker. Yeah, I think I've had 2 premieres on Another Wasted Hour. And yeah, and then the other thing is, aside from the fact that you are trying to have fun, like you don't pull any punches. Like you emailed me and you asked me, you were like, I don't know if this song is what you say it's about. Like you're not just like asking questions, all willy-nilly. Like you're like, hey, we got to dig deep and find out the truth behind this stuff. Like give me some more details. Like tell me about this stuff. Like
I hold you to a
YouTube
higher
videos where
standard,
you
man,
try
because I know you. I know what you're capable of.
right. Well, I mean, I think it's also like the hard part of like saying like a song is encompasses a lot, especially like lyrically. Like I'm trying to pull 2 or 3 perspectives into a song, and that's not always the right way to write a song and like make 1 million fans and sell a pop album or something. But like, like I'm trying to say that if we look at a song from one place, there's like my spot as a songwriter, like how I feel about something, and then there's also the notion of I see this happening and I want to document it. I want to catalog it in some capacity. And then maybe there's also I've talked to other people and they feel this way. So I try to introduce perspectives into the narrative of a song. And so maybe you're listening to a song and you hear something happening from multiple perspectives as you listen throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have those 2 diametrically kind of opposed forms of art, right? It's what the artist is intending for the art to say, and then what the interpreter, the person consuming the art, kind of lays upon it. And those have been 2 big schools of thought when it comes to art, which is right. And the answer is I think they're probably both right? They can all exist kind of in concert with one another, and all those perspectives matter, especially to the people who are perceiving them those ways. And I think it all reflects on the art in its own piece, and ends up making it whatever phenomenon it kind of is, right? It ends up taking on some of those personas.
Right. Yeah, a song kind of ends up becoming bigger or different than even you can have an intention, and then the song becomes something different once other people start to listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, that's probably not an unreasonable place to hang up this like twice long YellowTieGuy Fireside chat.
For all the folks who stuck it out through the end of this one, I appreciate you being here.
When's part 2?
Was that
So anotherwastedhour.com. I think that takes you to Facebook. Like
about the
it,
drone footage,
subscribe,
Keith?
follow, join a mailing list. Like, talk to your neighbor, let them know that Keith has got a podcast coming back. Do what you have to do to like hang on to Another Wasted Hour. It's comes from a great place, from somebody who's been invested in growing the local music scene for the last 15 plus years, and that's worth something. God damn it. So get out there and
Agreed. Cheers.
make it happen. Really appreciate you, Keith. Appreciate, your investment in the DMV community and the opportunities that you've tried to, to provide to everybody. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for all the things you do. I mean, with the work that you've done with your label and the music that you've made, and even these fireside chats. I think you're doing the same type of stuff I am, and I also appreciate that and recognize it.
Thank you. Yeah, man. I mean, the more that we can just do the things that we love to do and spread the love, talk about each other a little bit,
I do like talking about other people.
It's way easier than talking about myself. I can tell you that. There are people that want to know what I had for lunch, and there's Instagram for that. But I'd rather avoid the topic altogether. All right, guys.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you for
everybody. Thanks for
another
watching.
wasted
Guys,
hour.
thanks for being here. And ending the stream. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
That was band practice.